Relaxation is not weakness, and it is not giving up. It is the moment you stop leaking energy into panic, resistance, and overthinking. The Stoics understood something modern culture constantly ignores. A tense mind repels clarity, while a settled mind attracts alignment. When you relax, you stop fighting reality as it is, and that is precisely when reality begins to move in your favor. Most people think manifestation requires effort, visualization, repetition, or obsession. But the Stoics would say the opposite. What you want arrives faster when you stop gripping it with fear. Anxiety signals mistrust in life. Calm signals readiness. When you are tense, your mind narrows. You fixate on outcomes, timelines, and comparisons. You begin negotiating with the future instead of acting wisely in the present. Stoicism teaches that the only thing ever fully under your control is your judgment in this moment. The moment you truly accept that, your nervous system settles. And when the nervous system settles, perception sharpens. You notice opportunities you were too frantic to see before. You speak differently. You decide differently. What feels like manifestation is often just clarity returning after inner noise fades. Desire itself is not the problem. Attachment is. The Stoics warned against becoming emotionally enslaved to outcomes because attachment distorts judgment. When you need something to happen, your behavior becomes desperate, even if subtly. People sense it. Circumstances reflect it. Relaxation breaks this chain. When you loosen attachment, you paradoxically increase effectiveness. You still take action, but your actions are cleaner, calmer, and more precise. You stop forcing doors and start recognizing the ones already open. A relaxed mind does not mean a passive life. It means you are no longer emotionally reactive to what you cannot control. The Stoics trained themselves to expect obstacles, not fear them. This expectation removed shock and disappointment. When something didn't go their way, they didn't spiral, they adjusted. That adjustment is power. Most people burn energy resisting setbacks, asking, "Why me?" A Stoic asks, "What does this require of me now?" That single shift dissolves stress and creates momentum. Momentum looks like luck from the outside. The more you relax your resistance to life, the more life cooperates. Not because the universe is rewarding you, but because you are no longer sabotaging yourself with inner chaos. Stress narrows perspective. Calm expands it. In calm states, you listen better, wait longer, and choose wiser responses. You stop chasing validation. You stop begging outcomes to confirm your worth. And when you no longer need external proof, you begin to move with quiet authority. That authority changes how people respond to you. Stoicism also teaches negative visualization, not to create fear, but to dissolve it. By calmly imagining loss, rejection, or delay, you remove their emotional sting. When fear loses its grip, urgency disappears. And urgency is the enemy of manifestation. Urgency tells the mind, "I don't have enough." Relaxation tells the mind, "I am already grounded." One state attracts chaos. The other attracts stability. The world tends to mirror whichever state you consistently live in. There is also a deeper layer most people miss. Relaxation is a form of trust, not blind optimism, but trust in your capacity to respond wisely to whatever happens. The Stoics didn't believe life would always go their way. They believed they would always be capable. That belief removes desperation, and desperation is what blocks progress. When you trust yourself, you stop micromanaging the future. You stop clenching the outcome. You let time work with you instead of against you. When you relax, you also stop broadcasting internal conflict. Internal conflict leaks into tone, posture, decisions, and timing. Calm people move at the right speed. They don't rush ahead of reality, and they don't lag behind it. This rhythm matters more than people realize. Many missed opportunities aren't missed because someone wasn't talented enough, but because they were mentally noisy and emotionally rushed. Relaxation restores rhythm. Another Stoic insight is this: wanting less makes you stronger. When your happiness depends on fewer external variables, you become harder to disturb. And the less disturbed you are, the more magnetic you become. People are drawn to emotional steadiness. Opportunities gravitate toward those who don't panic under pressure. This is not mysticism. It is human psychology. Calm is rare. Rare things attract attention. As you relax, your standards rise quietly. You stop forcing yourself into places that don't fit. You stop chasing people who don't choose you. You stop negotiating your values for comfort. This is where manifestation becomes internal before it ever becomes external. The life you want does not begin with getting. It begins with no longer settling. Relaxation clears the static that kept you accepting less than you deserve. And once you experience this shift, you realize something unsettling but liberating. Most of your suffering came not from life itself, but from how tightly you were gripping it. Letting go does not mean losing control. It means releasing illusions of control that were draining you in the first place. The Stoics knew this long before modern psychology gave it language. Calm is not the end state. It is the doorway. When you truly relax, you stop confusing motion with progress. Many people stay busy not because it's effective, but because stillness makes them uncomfortable. The Stoics warned against this illusion of productivity. They understood that frantic action often masks inner fear, the fear of being left behind, overlooked, or irrelevant. Relaxation strips that illusion away. It forces you to confront what actually matters and what is merely noise. And once you see the difference, your actions become fewer, but far more powerful. Precision replaces exhaustion. There is also a subtle identity shift that happens when you relax. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must constantly prove, impress, or secure approval. Instead, you begin to operate from self-respect. This internal posture changes everything. You speak with less explanation. You tolerate less nonsense. You choose environments that nourish rather than drain you. The Stoics believed dignity was not something granted by others, but something maintained internally. When you relax into that truth, you stop outsourcing your worth to outcomes. Relaxation also dismantles the habit of catastrophizing. A tense mind always imagines the worst-case scenario and treats it as imminent. The Stoics trained themselves to observe thoughts without immediately believing them. This creates space. In that space, fear loses its authority. You realize most anxieties are rehearsals for futures that never arrive. When you stop rehearsing disaster, you free up mental energy for creativity, strategy, and patience. What feels like manifesting is often just no longer sabotaging yourself with imagined futures. Another overlooked principle is this: relaxed people are harder to manipulate. Urgency is a lever others can pull. Fear is a handle they can grab. The Stoics aimed for emotional independence because it protected their agency. When you are calm, you don't rush into decisions out of pressure. You don't accept bad deals because of impatience. You don't cling to relationships out of loneliness. This steadiness quietly filters your life. Over time, what remains is more aligned, not because you chased it, but because you refused to panic. Relaxation also changes how you experience time. When anxious, time feels like an enemy, always running out, always ahead of you. When calm, time becomes an ally. You understand that growth unfolds in seasons, not deadlines. The Stoics emphasized endurance over speed. They knew that anything meaningful takes time, and rushing often ruins what patience would have refined. This mindset alone removes enormous pressure from your life. You stop measuring yourself against artificial clocks and start measuring yourself against your values. There is a paradox here that most people resist. The more at ease you are with not having something, the more capable you become of receiving it. This is because reception requires openness, and openness cannot coexist with tension. A clenched fist cannot receive. A clenched mind cannot recognize opportunity. Stoicism teaches openness through acceptance, not passive resignation, but intelligent cooperation with reality. When you accept what is, you are no longer fighting shadows. You are dealing with facts, and facts are workable. As relaxation deepens, you become less reactive to praise and criticism alike. The Stoics viewed both as external events, neither of which should dictate inner peace. This neutrality is misunderstood by modern culture, which thrives on emotional extremes. But neutrality is power. When you are not inflated by praise, you are not shattered by disapproval. This emotional balance stabilizes your sense of direction. You no longer zigzag based on other people's opinions. Consistency replaces chaos, and consistency compounds results. A calm mind also restores intuition. When you are constantly overstimulated, intuition is drowned out by noise. Stoics practiced silence, reflection, and journaling not for self-expression, but for self-alignment. When you relax, your internal signals become clearer. You sense when something is off before it collapses. You recognize when something is right before it becomes obvious. This sensitivity is not mystical. It is what remains when distraction fades. Relaxation further reveals how little force is actually required to live well. Much of what exhausts people comes from unnecessary resistance, arguing with the past, resenting the present, fearing the future. Stoicism cuts through all three. The past is unchangeable. The future is uncertain. The present is where your power lives. When you relax into the present, you reclaim that power, not in a dramatic way, but in a steady, accumulating way that reshapes your life over time. And perhaps the most radical realization is this: calm is not something you earn after everything works out. Calm is the condition that allows things to work out at all. The Stoics did not wait for peace. They practiced it. They did not postpone steadiness until life improved. They understood steadiness was the improvement. This reversal is difficult for the anxious mind to accept, but once it clicks, everything changes. Not suddenly, but permanently. As relaxation becomes a discipline rather than a mood, you begin to notice how often people confuse emotional intensity with importance. The Stoics saw through this illusion. They understood that just because something feels urgent does not mean it is essential. A calm mind is able to separate signal from noise. You stop reacting to every stimulus, every message, every perceived slight. This restraint is not withdrawal, it is mastery. You conserve your energy for moments that truly matter, and that conservation quietly amplifies your influence. There is also a subtle freedom that appears when you relax your need to control how others see you. Many people live in constant performance mode, adjusting themselves to avoid judgment or rejection. The Stoics rejected this entirely. They believed your character was your only real possession, and character does not require applause. When you relax into that truth, social pressure weakens. You stop curating a persona and start embodying principles. Ironically, this authenticity often attracts more respect than any performance ever could. Relaxation also dismantles envy. A tense mind constantly compares timelines, achievements, and recognition. The Stoics taught that comparison is a misuse of attention. When you relax, you reclaim that attention and direct it inward, toward growth instead of rivalry. You stop asking why someone else is ahead and start asking whether you are aligned. Alignment creates progress that comparison never will. Envy fades because you are no longer measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. At this stage, it's important to pause and recognize something. If this perspective is resonating with you, it means your mind is already shifting. And if you want more content that sharpens this kind of clarity, take a moment now to like this video, subscribe to PsychoVest, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not as a habit, but as a signal to yourself that you are choosing depth over distraction. As you continue relaxing into Stoic principles, you realize how little of your suffering was caused by circumstances and how much was caused by interpretation. The Stoics did not deny pain, loss, or hardship, but they refused to add unnecessary mental torment on top of it. This distinction matters. When you relax your interpretations, life becomes lighter without becoming shallow. You still feel, but you no longer drown in feeling. Emotional sobriety replaces emotional chaos. Another transformation occurs in how you handle uncertainty. Most people fear uncertainty because they associate it with loss of control. The Stoics reframed uncertainty as neutral terrain, neither good nor bad, just unknown. When you relax your demand for certainty, curiosity replaces fear. You stop needing guarantees before taking action. You trust your ability to adapt. This trust is what allows opportunities to unfold naturally, without force or fixation. Relaxation also changes how you experience setbacks. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is this training me for?" The Stoics viewed adversity as refinement, not punishment. This mindset removes bitterness. You no longer see obstacles as interruptions, but as instruction. Calm allows you to extract lessons instead of carrying resentment. Over time, this habit compounds into wisdom. You may also notice that as you relax, your tolerance for meaningless conflict drops. You stop arguing to win. You stop explaining to be understood. You stop defending yourself against every misunderstanding. The Stoics believed silence was often stronger than rebuttal, not because you are weak, but because your peace is no longer up for negotiation. This quiet strength reshapes your relationships, often without a single confrontation. And slowly, almost unnoticed, your life begins to feel less forced, not perfect, not effortless, but coherent. Decisions align with values, actions align with timing. You are no longer sprinting emotionally while standing still externally. You are moving, calmly, deliberately, without the inner friction that once drained you. As calm becomes your default state, you begin to recognize how often the world tries to pull you back into agitation. News cycles thrive on outrage. Social platforms reward extremes. Even casual conversations are filled with urgency and alarm. The Stoics warned that an untrained mind absorbs the emotional climate around it without question. Relaxation, in this sense, becomes an act of resistance. You choose not to let external chaos dictate your internal state. This choice alone restores a sense of sovereignty most people never experience. You also start to see how impatience distorts desire. When something is meant for you, rushing toward it often pushes it further away. The Stoics emphasized right action at the right time. Relaxation refines timing. You stop acting prematurely out of fear that opportunity will disappear. Instead, you wait for alignment between readiness and circumstance. This patience is not hesitation, it is discernment. And discernment prevents costly mistakes that urgency would have rushed you into. Another shift occurs in how you relate to effort. A tense mind equates effort with strain. A relaxed mind understands effort as focus. The Stoics practiced sustained attention without emotional turbulence. They showed up daily, consistently, without dramatic highs or lows. This steady rhythm is what builds mastery. When you relax, you stop burning yourself out on short bursts of motivation and begin relying on discipline. Discipline does not need excitement, it needs calm commitment. Relaxation also changes how you interpret silence and stillness. Many people fear quiet because it removes distraction. The Stoics welcomed it because it revealed truth. In silence, you become aware of subtle impulses guiding your decisions. You notice whether you are acting from fear, pride, or clarity. This awareness is essential. Without it, you are easily pulled off course by habits you don't question. Relaxation makes self-observation possible. As this awareness grows, you realize how much of your previous effort was misdirected. You were trying to force outcomes instead of preparing yourself to meet them. Stoicism places responsibility where it belongs, on your character, not on external results. When you relax into character building rather than outcome chasing, you paradoxically become more effective. You show up grounded, prepared, and resilient, qualities that quietly attract opportunities. There is also a redefinition of success that happens here. Success stops being about accumulation and starts being about coherence. Are your thoughts, actions, and values aligned? The Stoics believed inner harmony was the highest form of wealth. When you relax, you stop seeking success as a way to escape discomfort and start cultivating it as a reflection of inner order. This shift removes desperation and replaces it with steadiness. Relaxation further dissolves the fear of being left behind. When you are calm, you no longer feel the need to race against others. You understand that life is not a single-lane highway, but a series of paths unfolding at different speeds. The Stoics taught that envy and haste are symptoms of forgetting what is truly yours to manage. When you remember that, competition loses its grip. You focus inward, where progress is always available. You may also notice that your emotional reactions become shorter-lived. Anger still arises, but it does not linger. Disappointment still appears, but it does not define you. The Stoics trained themselves to observe emotion without surrendering to it. Relaxation strengthens this skill. You feel without fusing. This emotional agility keeps your energy clean and your mind unburdened. As days pass in this state, life begins to feel less like something happening to you and more like something unfolding with you. Not because circumstances are always favorable, but because your internal stance is no longer adversarial. You are cooperating with reality instead of resisting it. This cooperation is what many people describe as flow, alignment, or manifestation, though the Stoics would simply call it wisdom in action. As this way of being settles in, you begin to notice how rarely most people are actually present. Their bodies are in one place, but their minds are negotiating regrets or rehearsing fears. The Stoics believed presence was power because it was the only place where choice existed. Relaxation anchors you here. When you are present, you are no longer reacting to imagined threats or chasing imagined rewards. You are responding to what is real. And reality, when met calmly, is far more workable than the stories we invent about it. You also become aware of how much emotional labor you use to perform unnecessarily, explaining yourself, defending your intentions, managing other people's reactions. The Stoics taught that peace comes from knowing when effort is required and when it is wasted. Relaxation sharpens this discernment. You stop pouring energy into dynamics that cannot be controlled and start investing it where it compounds. This shift alone creates a noticeable lightness in daily life, as if an invisible weight has been set down. Another quiet transformation happens in how you handle delay. Where impatience once triggered frustration, relaxation introduces trust, not in outcomes, but in process. The Stoics understood that delay often refines judgment. When you relax, you stop interpreting waiting as failure. You recognize it as preparation. This reframing dissolves panic and preserves dignity. You no longer rush to fill silence or force movement just to feel productive. You allow things to ripen. Relaxation also reorders your relationship with desire. You still want things, but you are no longer ruled by wanting. Desire becomes information rather than command. The Stoics believed unchecked desire was a form of slavery. When you relax, you regain authorship over your impulses. You choose which desires deserve your time and which are simply passing urges. This selectivity restores self-respect and prevents self-betrayal. As your inner climate stabilizes, external chaos loses its ability to hijack you. Criticism lands softer. Praise feels pleasant, but not intoxicating. Success doesn't inflate you, and setbacks don't collapse you. The Stoics aimed for this middle ground because it preserved clarity. Relaxation keeps you centered, and a centered person sees farther, thinks cleaner, and acts with intention rather than reflex. You may also notice how your body responds. Shoulders drop, breathing deepens, sleep improves. The Stoics did not separate mind and body. They understood emotional turbulence manifests physically. When you relax mentally, the body follows. This embodied calm changes how you show up in the world. People feel it before you say a word. Calm communicates safety, confidence, and control without announcement. Over time, this steadiness reshapes ambition itself. You stop striving to escape yourself and start building from yourself. Goals no longer feel like proof of worth, but expressions of purpose. The Stoics believed a good life was one lived in accordance with nature, not in opposition to it. Relaxation aligns you with this principle. You stop forcing unnatural timelines and start respecting your own rhythm. There is also a deep relief that comes from realizing you don't need to have everything figured out. The Stoics accepted uncertainty as part of the human condition. Relaxation makes this acceptance livable. You stop demanding certainty before acting and start trusting adaptability instead. This trust is freeing. It removes the pressure to predict everything and replaces it with confidence in your capacity to respond. As this continues, you begin to sense a quiet stability beneath your experiences, a kind of internal anchor. Life still moves, challenges still arise, but they no longer feel like threats to your identity or peace. You are not bracing against existence anymore. You are meeting it calmly, moment by moment, with a mind that is no longer clenched but open. And from this openness, everything begins to feel different. Not dramatic, not sudden, but unmistakably changed. As this openness deepens, you begin to understand that relaxation is not something you do after you succeed. It is something you practice while you move. The Stoics never waited for ideal conditions to cultivate calm. They trained it in the middle of uncertainty, loss, and pressure. This is why their peace was durable. When you relax in imperfect conditions, you stop postponing your life. You stop telling yourself, "I'll be calm once this works out." Calm becomes how you work things out. You also start to notice how much fear was disguised as ambition. The drive to accumulate, achieve, or prove often came from an underlying belief that you were not enough yet. Stoicism dissolves this belief at the root. When you relax, you stop chasing self-worth through external milestones. You pursue goals because they are meaningful, not because they are compensatory. This changes the emotional texture of your effort. Work becomes steadier, progress becomes quieter, satisfaction becomes internal. Relaxation further teaches you how to respond to disappointment without self-betrayal. Instead of turning frustration inward as self-criticism, you treat it as information. The Stoics believed self-blame was just another form of emotional excess. When you relax, you evaluate without attacking yourself. You correct without shaming. This preserves confidence and allows learning to happen without erosion of self-trust. There is also a growing intolerance for inner dishonesty. When you are tense, you can ignore misalignment because distraction keeps discomfort at bay. Relaxation removes that buffer. You feel when something is wrong. You sense when a path no longer fits. The Stoics saw this sensitivity as wisdom, not weakness. Calm allows truth to surface, and truth, though sometimes uncomfortable, prevents long-term suffering. As this continues, your relationship with control becomes more refined. You stop trying to control outcomes and start mastering preparation. You control your effort, your values, your response. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, and relaxation is what makes it livable rather than theoretical. When you stop fighting for dominance over what cannot be commanded, You gain authority over what can. You may also notice a subtle shift in confidence. It is no longer loud or performative. It is quiet, grounded, and difficult to shake. This confidence does not come from certainty that things will go well, but from certainty that you will remain intact if they don't. The Stoics prized this resilience above all else. Relaxation reinforces it daily. Another realization emerges here. Many of the things you thought you wanted were actually attempts to escape discomfort. As you relax, discomfort loses its power, and those desires fall away naturally. What remains is cleaner, simpler, and more aligned. You want less, but you enjoy more. The Stoics considered this the highest form of wealth. Relaxation also sharpens moral clarity. When emotions are calm, values become easier to uphold. You are less likely to compromise integrity for convenience or approval. Stoicism placed virtue above outcome because virtue was always available. Relaxation keeps you connected to that standard even under pressure. With time, you stop narrating your life as a struggle. Not because struggle disappears, but because it no longer defines you. You are not constantly bracing, resisting, or preparing for impact. You are present, responsive, and composed. Life feels less like something to survive and more like something to engage. And in this state, you are no longer asking how to force things to happen. You are asking how to remain steady while they unfold. As this steadiness becomes familiar, you begin to recognize how much power lives in restraint. The Stoics believed that the ability to pause, to not immediately react, was one of the highest forms of strength. When you relax, you create a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, wisdom lives. Most regret is born from acting too quickly under emotional pressure. Calm slows the moment just enough for you to choose deliberately instead of impulsively. This single skill reshapes conversations, decisions, and entire life trajectories. You also start to see how deeply relaxation is tied to self-trust. When you are tense, you are constantly checking, second-guessing, and seeking reassurance. A relaxed mind does not mean a careless one. It means you trust your judgment enough to let decisions stand. The Stoics trained themselves to commit fully once a choice was made, without ruminating endlessly over alternatives. This frees enormous mental energy. Life feels lighter, not because choices are easier, but because you stop carrying them long after they are made. Another shift appears in how you relate to effort and rest. Most people oscillate between overexertion and collapse. The Stoics aimed for equilibrium. Relaxation allows you to work without burning out and rest without guilt. You stop viewing rest as laziness and start seeing it as maintenance. This balance sustains long-term growth. It keeps you consistent rather than dramatic, durable rather than impressive. At this point, it becomes clear that calm is not passive, it is directive. A relaxed person sets the emotional tone of a room. Others subconsciously adjust to it. Conversations slow, conflicts soften. Even resistance changes shape. The Stoics understood leadership as emotional regulation before authority. When you remain calm, you influence outcomes without force. This is one of the most underrated forms of power. If this way of seeing life is speaking to you, if you feel something settling as you listen, take a moment now to like this video, subscribe to PsychoVest, and share it with someone who feels overwhelmed by constant pressure. Not to chase numbers, but to build a space where calm thinking is valued in a loud world. As relaxation deepens further, you stop needing dramatic breakthroughs to feel fulfilled. Progress becomes quiet and cumulative. You don't announce your growth, you embody it. The Stoics believed real transformation was often invisible to others at first, but undeniable over time. When you relax, you allow this slow transformation to take root without interrupting it with impatience or self-doubt. You may also notice that your sense of identity loosens. You are no longer defined by past mistakes, current struggles, or future ambitions. You are defined by how you meet each moment. This flexibility protects you from despair and arrogance alike. The Stoics saw identity as fluid, shaped by choices rather than labels. Relaxation keeps you adaptable without becoming ungrounded. Over time, your emotional landscape becomes simpler, not dull, simpler. Fewer spikes, fewer crashes, more continuity. This stability creates a sense of inner safety that no external achievement can provide. When you have this, you stop chasing reassurance from the world. You move through it with composure, not because life is easy, but because you are no longer at war with it. And from this place, everything you pursue carries a different energy. Less strain, less fear, more alignment. You are no longer forcing life to respond. You are meeting it with calm authority, one deliberate moment at a time. As this steadiness becomes familiar, you begin to recognize how much power lives in restraint. The Stoics believed that the ability to pause, to not immediately react, was one of the highest forms of strength. When you relax, you create a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, wisdom lives. Most regret is born from acting too quickly under emotional pressure. Calm slows the moment just enough for you to choose deliberately instead of impulsively. This single skill reshapes conversations, decisions, and entire life trajectories. You also start to see how deeply relaxation is tied to self-trust. When you are tense, you are constantly checking, second-guessing, and seeking reassurance. A relaxed mind does not mean a careless one. It means you trust your judgment enough to let decisions stand. The Stoics trained themselves to commit fully once a choice was made, without ruminating endlessly over alternatives. This frees enormous mental energy. Life feels lighter, not because choices are easier, but because you stop carrying them long after they are made. Another shift appears in how you relate to effort and rest. Most people oscillate between overexertion and collapse. The Stoics aimed for equilibrium. Relaxation allows you to work without burning out and rest without guilt. You stop viewing rest as laziness and start seeing it as maintenance. This balance sustains long-term growth. It keeps you consistent rather than dramatic, durable rather than impressive. At this point, it becomes clear that calm is not passive. It is directive. A relaxed person sets the emotional tone of a room. Others subconsciously adjust to it. Conversations slow, conflicts soften, even resistance changes shape. The Stoics understood leadership as emotional regulation before authority. When you remain calm, you influence outcomes without force. This is one of the most underrated forms of power. If this way of seeing life is speaking to you, if you feel something settling as you listen, take a moment now to like this video, subscribe to PsychoVest, and share it with someone who feels overwhelmed by constant pressure. Not to chase numbers, but to build a space where calm thinking is valued in a loud world. As relaxation deepens further, you stop needing dramatic breakthroughs to feel fulfilled. Progress becomes quiet and cumulative. You don't announce your growth, you embody it. The Stoics believed real transformation was often invisible to others at first, but undeniable over time. When you relax, you allow this slow transformation to take root without interrupting it with impatience or self-doubt. You may also notice that your sense of identity loosens. You are no longer defined by past mistakes, current struggles, or future ambitions. You are defined by how you meet each moment. This flexibility protects you from despair and arrogance alike. The Stoics saw identity as fluid, shaped by choices rather than labels. Relaxation keeps you adaptable without becoming ungrounded. Over time, your emotional landscape becomes simpler, not dull, simpler. Fewer spikes, fewer crashes, more continuity. This stability creates a sense of inner safety that no external achievement can provide. When you have this, you stop chasing reassurance from the world. You move through it with composure, not because life is easy, but because you are no longer at war with it. And from this place, everything you pursue carries a different energy, less strain, less fear, more alignment. You are no longer forcing life to respond. You are meeting it with calm authority, one deliberate moment at a time. As this calm authority settles into your daily experience, you begin to notice how your relationship with effort becomes more humane. You no longer punish yourself for not moving fast enough, or shame yourself for resting. The Stoics believed cruelty toward oneself was just as destructive as cruelty toward others. Relaxation removes this internal harshness. You hold yourself to standards, yes, but without contempt. This balance allows growth without erosion. You improve without breaking yourself in the process. You also start to recognize how much of your former stress came from resisting impermanence. The Stoics constantly reminded themselves that everything changes: relationships, roles, health, status. When you relax into this truth, you stop clinging to moments as if they must last forever. Joy becomes lighter. Loss becomes survivable. You savor what is present without demanding it remain unchanged. This acceptance does not dull experience, it deepens it. Relaxation further reshapes how you handle conflict. Instead of reacting to emotional heat, you respond to underlying needs. The Stoics valued reason over reactivity. When calm, you listen for meaning rather than attack. You disengage when engagement serves no purpose. You choose silence not out of fear, but out of clarity. This composure often diffuses tension before it escalates, and when it doesn't, you walk away intact. Another layer emerges in how you perceive obstacles. What once felt like proof that something wasn't meant for you begins to look like a test of preparation. The Stoics believed fate presents challenges not to block us, but to shape us. Relaxation allows you to meet difficulty without personalizing it. You stop seeing resistance as rejection and start seeing it as refinement. This shift preserves motivation without fueling bitterness. As you live in this state longer, your desires simplify. You want fewer things, but you want them more clearly. Excess falls away. Distractions lose their pull. The Stoics taught that clarity of desire was freedom. When you relax, you no longer confuse novelty with fulfillment. You choose depth over accumulation. This choice quietly reorganizes your life. You may also notice that gratitude arises naturally, without effort, not forced positivity, but a steady appreciation for what is already enough. The Stoics practiced gratitude as a way to anchor contentment in reality. Relaxation makes this practice effortless. When you are no longer consumed by what is missing, what is present becomes visible. This visibility nourishes peace. Over time, you stop seeking validation for your calm. You don't need others to understand your pace or approve your priorities. The Stoics warned against letting public opinion govern private life. Relaxation strengthens this independence. You move according to principle, not pressure. This autonomy feels like quiet freedom. As days unfold, life no longer feels like a series of crises to survive, but a sequence of moments to engage wisely. You are not numbing yourself. You are fully here, alert, grounded, composed. Challenges still arise, but they meet a mind that is no longer clenched. You are not resisting life anymore. You are cooperating with it. And in this cooperation, something subtle but profound continues to unfold, steady, unforced, and deeply human. What the Stoics ultimately understood is this: peace is not a reward for a life well lived. It is the foundation of one. When you relax, you are not abandoning ambition, discipline, or responsibility. You are removing the internal friction that made every step heavier than it needed to be. Calm is not the absence of desire, it is the absence of fear around desire. And fear is what keeps people stuck in cycles of forcing, chasing, and resisting what is already trying to meet them halfway. When you live from this relaxed steadiness, life stops feeling like something you must conquer. You still work, you still plan, you still strive, but you do so without the quiet desperation that once followed you everywhere. You understand that outcomes are shaped by preparation and response, not by tension and control. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature, moving with reality instead of grinding against it. This is where things begin to align, not magically, but inevitably. Manifestation, in its truest sense, is not about pulling things toward you through willpower. It is about becoming someone who is internally ready to receive, recognize, and sustain what arrives. Relaxation creates that readiness. It clears the mind, steadies the nervous system, and restores trust in your ability to meet life as it unfolds. From that state, opportunities no longer feel fragile or fleeting. You meet them with composure instead of panic, with wisdom instead of urgency. And perhaps the most powerful realization of all is this: nothing you truly need requires you to abandon your peace to obtain it. If something demands constant anxiety, self-betrayal, or inner chaos, it is not aligned with you. The Stoics knew this, and they lived by it. Calm is not the end of the journey. It is the path itself. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Psychovest, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that peace is power. We build this space for those who choose clarity over noise, steadiness over fear, and wisdom over force.